This is Digital Anarchist.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on another TechStrong TV segment. We're out of our normal TechStrong studio here in MediaOps headquarters because we have guests. It's post-COVID, we have people coming to the office. I want to introduce you to a new company that's just emerging from stealth. It actually features a longtime friend of mine, Andrew Greeley, immediately here to my right. You'll tell it's Andrew, he has a funny French accent. Andrew, if you want to say hello to everyone.
Hi, good morning. Oh, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm Andrew Greeley, the CEO of CTCI, Cyber Threat Cognitive Intelligence, and today we're going to talk about some cool stuff we're doing.
Absolutely. Joining Andrew and I is Andrew's co-founder, who I know a few years as well, Mike Freeman. Mike, welcome.
Hello. Happy to be here. My name is Michael Freeman, and happy to introduce you to what we're up to today.
Absolutely. So, you know what? Andrew and Michael have literally flown across the U.S. from Seattle, which is where they're based, here to Florida, to our studios, and, well, not just for this video, but to talk about this company that, though it's coming out of stealth today, actually represents, Mike, it's about 14 years.
Yes.
Of work and research on your part.
It is.
And as an entrepreneur, you know, so many people think that these startups are overnight successes. Very few are really overnight successes. Maybe it's overnight from when people found out about them to when they see things happening. But generally, there's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, right? And years of work that people put into it. So Andrew, Mike, let's start off with this. CTCI stands for Cyber Threat
Cognitive Intel.
Cognitive Intel.
Intelligence, yeah.
Sounds like a threat intel
Yes.
play.
Yes.
But why don't share with our audience a little bit? What are we doing here?
Yeah, Mike, you want to take through the background of how we started? That's always a good start.
Yeah, so
Sure.
the background is I spent many years developing advanced offensive as well as defensive technologies for different government agencies. And when I had the opportunity to go into the private sector, I realized that there was a huge gap of the technologies that were available to the intelligence space versus what's actually available into the commercial space. And had the opportunity to go work for a Fortune 100 company where we utilized some of this technology. And that's where I met Andrew. Andrew was running the analytics side of things and was able to validate to me that the technology was actually working at that point. And the value was immense. And so we decided to start a company out of it.
Excellent.
Yeah, we said that, we were, before starting this, we're at Nike, and Nike has a thing called edit to amplify. Where can you make the biggest difference in a company? And we thought, what Mike was doing, Mike was saving us times a year, and we said, with his intel, it shouldn't be one company, it should be 1,000 companies that can get that opportunity, right? And with ransomware, with threats, there's only getting worse in the cyberspace. So we said, should we, Nike's a great company, should we stay in there and, ride out COVID, or should we leave during this pandemic and start it? And we said, you know what, let's start it. There's too many people getting hurt from this.
Absolutely. And look, our audience is a cyber savvy audience, right? And I think when we talk about threat intel, they know what we're talking about. A lot of companies, have pioneered the threat intel space. The idea behind it is, of course, that, we're going to give you the intel, the 411, the information about potential threats that are out there, which will then hopefully be actionable, right? Allowing people to... Yeah. A pound of prevention is worth an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. What's different about what you guys are doing though with CTCI?
Yeah, so there's a number of answers to that question, and I'll start off with the first part on what is actionable intelligence. Some organizations in the threat intel space will say Russia are focusing on banks, compromising banks. And with that information, it's like, when I did 23 years in banking, what do we do? Right? So Mike and I said, what is the most actionable nugget we can give people? Can I give you something, you can grab that and you can run with it. You can work out what preventions, detections, mitigations, are you using the right security products? Are you using the right security features? And we said that nugget of gold is CVEs. If we can roll up the threat actors, what they're using as a CVE, to saying they're using this CVE. 60% of all companies are still compromised by unpatched. but there's 200 to 500 new vulnerabilities a day that the team has to go through. Which one should they do? What detection should we put in place? What should we mitigate? So we said, let's roll that up and say, this threat actor is using this CVE, and then from there, you can have a whole, what we call like a honey badger process, which every group can help. Oh, does my security tool, does it block that ransomware, right? Does it block that SMB call? Then, what detection should I put in place? Or what can my threat hunting team go? We have a thing called a flash, which is our flash alerts. And what they do, they'll have the mitigations in their detection. So the threat hunting team can go through the logs, whether it's Splunk or Devo, they can search for those logs and see, this nugget of gold, we've been compromised or not. What we produce is a thing called Cool. And I've always wanted to work for a cool company, right?
Okay.
So everyone wants to work for a cool company. So CEWL, which is the CVE early warning list. And with that, it's about what CVEs threat actors are using in the wild right now and what they're about to use.
Excellent. So I guess, though, my question is still out there to you, which is why your threat intel versus others?
Yeah, so
I mean, should the average company collect threat intels like socks and underwear, or what makes what yours is special?
So Mike is our Chief Threat Officer, our
Okay.
CTO. So Mike, if you talk us through that,
Yes. So most threat intelligence companies, what they do is they scan the internet for keywords. They're looking for regular expressions to identify what might be an interest for an analyst, usually at the customer's side, to go through and find something actionable out of that. That doesn't really work in the real world for the most cases. So what we decided to do is take the actual threat, the intelligence lifecycle, which starts with a question, and then you build your entire threat intelligence program around answering that question. So what we did is we want to know what CVE threat actors are actually using now, which ones they're wanting to weaponize, which ones are easy to weaponize and leverage. And so we built our entire technology stack around answering that one specific question for people. And so we do the whole entire life cycle for you instead of you trying to build your own analytical team to answer those questions.
Love it.
And if you take that a little bit higher as well, is that when we look at the problem, the people doing, a lot of people, as Mike said, doing collection. They're getting a big bucket of data, and there's companies there you can search for a CVE and it'll say, here's all the hits and mentions on the web. So what an analyst has to do is go through 300 clicks and clicking, that's a tweeter that says, has anyone got the exploit? What we do, we roll and do that analysis. We do, at different levels, we do the threat determination, the threat actor conversation. We do all the parts to say, this is actually really actionable. Mike does POC validation. So we validate that the POC is actually, on GitHub, is actually going to do that exploit, and it's not going to compromise your organization. And doing that validation as well, and the last level we have analysts always curate it. That means we're talking about quality. Spend less time going through all those clicks and searching, and actually spend time using that data to make change. And for us, it's about our knowledge driving that better outcome. And everyone wants better outcomes.
Agreed. It is about better outcomes. All right, I think we've discussed the technology. Let's talk a little bit about now, for our audience out here, how is this consumed? Is it a service? Is it a monthly service, yearly? Is it a one-time? Is it an on-premise thing? Is it SaaS?
We've gone what the world's using today, which is SaaS, right? I think if you do an on-premise solution in today's threat intel world, you're dead in the water, right? There's cloud, SaaS is the way to go. And we have when we first built it, we did it straight as API, right? We thought, everyone will get the API and it'll be fantastic. But what we found is people also wanted a portal where they could do a number of things. One was search for those CVEs and look at it and get all the information from what we have. And the second part there is they may have a network group and they say, hey, we use Cisco products. I want to know if there's anyone in the Cisco product that comes up, send it to that group. So we have notification filters, groups, send it to Slack, to webhooks, to Jira tickets. And a lot of times we're 9 days early than what's in the VM products of their testing. So then we said, people wanted to create like Jira tickets to say, will you give us a new one and we'll do that as our process. Instead of the 200 to 500, we'll use yours as the first part of that process. And what we found, some interesting things in the list, when we did that, we give you to be able to do pivot tables, graphs, all that sort of stuff. And you can mine that data for really interesting stuff. And one thing we find is that 80% of what the threat actor is using is non-critical.
Really?
So most organizations are just getting through the criticals today. And that's not what a lot of times the threat actor is using. So they're leaving themselves wide open. Right? And that's where we say, hey, if you're patching this critical, here's these other ones that are actually 3 or 4 low that they're using to compromise as well. Right? And that becomes an easier part of your process to say, what do I patch? Look it up in the cool list. Oh, if it's in the cool list, then I should have more priority to that. The other way there is we added two-way. So we can, when you've done it in the organization, process that list, you can have it grayed out or not showing. And that's really important because we also understand supply chain zero trust. And with partners, we're saying, well, if you're secure, there's still a 25% chance you're getting compromised by your partners. So how about you license that to the partners, and then you can actively watch them with that two-way communication feeding back, are they being compliant? And it's not just a tick in the box. Then they're reducing the security, they're improving the security posture, reducing the chance of being compromised.
Got it. Excellent. What is something? How's it priced? How do people? How's it consumed like that? What's it cost?
Yeah, so we're about. We've been told by we've presented to about 25 companies, and we've told we're in the middle range, the mid range. So, and that's with cool and flash alerts, and then we have another thing called legit. Because I've always wanted to have a legit company, right? Because in threat intel...
Wasn't enough to be cool, you had to be legit and cool.
Well, because threat intel, there's been a lot of blood in the water,
right?
There's been companies like Norse and other companies that haven't made it a really good environment. And a lot of threat intel there is not actionable. And it's still too much hard for an analyst. Or you have to build up a big cyber threat intel group, which is too expensive and too hard to run. We're still in a cybersecurity shortage, right? So we created Legit, which is the lookup explanation for genuine IP threats. And it's IP IICs. So don't pay your $150K to the other companies that are just doing IICs. And the important thing is, if you go to IP address and you type it in VirusTotal today, it'll give you, here's that IP address and what it is. We give you up to 6 years of 400 feeds of what attacks we use for that. So, and we've spent a number of times in investigations. In investigations, you may be going back 200 to 300 days. And when you go back to that time, you want to see what that IP addresses were. If there's something of interest during that time, there's about 40 different types of tagging we have, from attacks to phishing to crypto mining to all those different parts. And we give that for free. And today, you can actually register on our portal and use that today.
Excellent.
We want to give back. It's also important for us to give back to the community.
What about, it's a new product. Is there like a trial or anything people could do to use it today, check it out, make sure,
Totally. So CTCI.ai. CTCI.com, I think, is a Chinese company. We are not that company. Don't go there.
Don't go there.
They are CTCI.ai for artificial intelligence, because we do a lot of AI and machine learning, of course. And if you go there, there's start a trial, and you can do that, and we just set the company up in a way you can add users and manage and do that, right? So,
love it.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew and Mike, we're going to have you back on. We'd like to hear more, but good luck on the launch of the company. That is CTCI.ai, the newest thing in threat intel. Check it out here on TechStrong TV. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with another guest.